to Hoist the Colors? Now, time for the most in-depth look at the world of ECU athletics. Welcome in to Hoist the Colors with your host, Stephen Igo on 94.3 The Game. Watch the show live on Facebook and at 943thegame.com. Now, here's your host, Stephen Igo.
All right, welcome into the show on this Monday. We are into October. The month of October has arrived. East Carolina, unfortunately, coming off another tough loss at Rice over the weekend in Houston, Texas. They fall 24-17. It is a reaction Monday here on Hoist the Colors. That means, as always, we are taking your questions, your comments, your concerns, all of the above. Anything you want to say, we will listen to it and we'll react to it. And another difficult loss for the Pirates. They dropped to 1-4. We'll head into the bye week this week with really kind of searching for answers with the situation offensively right now. And we'll talk about the defensive mistakes as well. But the offense is the story. It's just been painful. ECU actually outgained Rice by well over 100 yards. To be quite honest, should have won the football game and just had issues executing in the red zone. 2 empty red zone trips. You had the holding penalty that led to the pick right before the end of the first quarter. And then, of course, everybody knows the first series of the second half, you get first and goal from the 3 or 4 after a big Josiah Hatfield play, and you can't punch it in on 4th and inches. You end up getting stuffed at the goal line. So that ended up being the difference in the game. ECU loses 24-17. If you make those plays and you're 2-3, ECU and everybody's in a good mood right now, those plays were not made, and East Carolina now sits at 1-4 and has to find a way to go 5-2 over their final 7 games just to become bowl eligible. So, again, it's a reaction Monday. We're going to read your comments. We got several of them, as we often do after a loss, on social media, on Twitter, X, whatever they call it now. If you do want to call in, you can do that as well, 252-561-8255. Philip Pilkington back in the studio. He will answer the phones and get you on the air. We're also taking your questions on Facebook and YouTube. So a lot to do in the next hour. All right, Philip Pilkington, you were able to follow the game back from the studio. Your thoughts on how it went from your vantage point. I was in Houston, so I'll give my takes here in a little bit before we get into the comments and the questions online. But just kind of want to get your assessment as well on this Reaction Monday.
You know, I thought play in and play out, it was the best the Pirates had looked probably in an FBS game at least. You kind of alluded to some of the stats there where we outgained them by over 200 or over 100 yards. First downs almost doubled them up. Lack of penalties for once. And Rice, a team who commits a lot of, or doesn't normally commit a lot of penalties, did commit a lot of penalties, as well as winning the time of possession by almost 10 minutes. And when you look at those things and you looked back at the game, like I said, play in and play out, it was pretty smooth. It just came down to the big moments. Inside the red zone, late in the game, the 5 or 6 plays that define a football game, none of them went the way of East Carolina, and those are the plays you got to make because, look, they're tight games. More games you have to view it are going to be tight than are not going to be tight. And when you blow a team out, it's okay just to rely on play in and play out. But the problem is it was a tight game. You're playing an evenly matched opponent, so you've got to make the big plays when they matter most, and it didn't seem like that happened on Saturday.
This is really now the second game where East Carolina in the fourth quarter obviously had a chance to win it, Marshall being the other one, realistically, and you just don't make the plays to get it done. So that's what's most disappointing. And this is a different game because ECU, to me, and being there, I took photos on the first half, or in the first half from the field. ECU was the better football team, and they were more talented. The only area I saw ECU struggle talent-wise with Rice was its offensive line against Rice's defensive front. That was a mismatch, and that's a big mismatch. But still, East Carolina outgained them, outplayed them for most of the day outside of those plays that Philip mentioned, and that's what makes it so frustrating. The other thing that makes it so frustrating is you go to these games and you see nobody cares about the team ECU's playing, Rice in Houston. We were at a bar up the road about a block away from the stadium about 3 or 4 hours to kick off, just kind of taking in the atmosphere. I was talking to you guys on the pregame show, Philip, and nobody, outside of the bartender, she was wearing a Rice shirt. Nobody in the bar other than that even knew a Rice game was going on. You had Texas fans, You had Texas A&M fans. You had a few University of Houston fans. So you go to these cities, no one cares about Rice. They've got 5,000 people in the stands, if that. They don't even have their own band. And it's just frustrating for East Carolina fans to see that, see the lack of caring from these other teams in the league, like a Rice. And then East Carolina fans, obviously passionate. Not that fans decide what happens on the field, but you just feel like you shouldn't lose these types of games. And to be honest, ECU shouldn't have lost this game. They also, they're now 0-3 at Rice, so there's something to do with that as well. Skip Holtz, Ruffin McNeil, and Mike Houston have all now failed in their attempt to win at Rice in 3 tries. So it's just a weird place to play, but that just adds to the frustration as well. And being there and just seeing the really lack of any type of football culture, it makes it all the more frustrating, Philip. I know, you weren't there, but were you able to watch the broadcast at all, and how did the crowd come across on TV? Because I'll be honest, it was pretty sad. I was taking pictures of guys from the end zone, and I would take pictures of them, and then in the background, it was just empty bleachers, not a single fan in the stands. Their student section was maybe 80 people deep, and it was not a good atmosphere.
Yeah, the unfortunate thing is I can't hear what the crowd sounds like on TV because naturally I'm listening to Jim on the radio broadcast. But yeah, well, that's to your point. I didn't able to realize I couldn't hear anything, but I could watch it. And I noticed behind East Carolina's bench, there were clusters of ECU fans. You could kind of tell those are probably the parents, those are probably the high up Pirate Club members. And then when you looked at the end zone, especially when they go to a replay and zoom in on a catch or on the quarterback, there was no one in the end zones. Every time they'd show Rice's bench, you could see that there were, I would say it was the most densely populated area was behind Rice's bench, but it still didn't look like it was half full. It still looked like there was more open seats than not. And to your point earlier, Stephen, that makes it really frustrating to lose these games because as people who grew up in North Carolina like you and I do, we see the passion. Yes, the Big Four have passion. Yes, East Carolina has passion. But even if you go to, say, Greensboro on a Saturday that North Carolina A&T is at home, and that is an FCS school, you, I think, have a lot more knowledge of the local people that the game is going on than you do for this FBS so-called Group of 5 program that has no one in the stands. Like you said, you had people coming up to you asking, why are East Carolina fans in Houston? Well, because we're playing a game in 3 hours. What do you mean, why are we here? People know in much smaller venues across our state that there are games being played, and we're out here losing to teams that, in a state that is so predominant in football, on top of that in Texas. It wasn't like we were in, Alaska or California where they've got other crap to do, We're in Texas. All they do is football.
Except at Rice, it's all about the studies, which, hey, it's a great university. I'm not going to hate it. And the area around campus, I actually stayed right at Rice Village, and it was an awesome area. But football-wise, not much support for the program, and that just makes it all the more frustrating. All right, East Carolina's offense actually outgained Rice by, again, a wide margin. I think they had around 393 yards of offense, and Rice had 277. So it wasn't a bad day from yardage. Still wasn't great considering Rice came into the game giving up well over 400 yards per game. But the fact of the matter is this offense can't score right now, Philip, against FBS competition. If you take out the Gardner-Webb game, which was a 44-point showing, but really a lot of that was helped out by the defense. But still, if you take away that, if you take out the FCS game and you take away the 2 touchdowns that the defense scored against Appalachian State, the offense in the 4 FBS games is averaging 12 points per game. And you just can't win football in 2023 by scoring in the low teens. So, yeah, we've seen progress. I think there are players who are getting better. I asked Coach Houston after the game just realistically, hey, do you look at making changes to the offense? If it's going to happen mid-season, which I have my reservations about for a whole lot of different reasons, which we can get into. But if you're going to make a change, it would have to happen now in terms of in season. And, we haven't heard anything yet. We sit here on a Monday doing this show live at 12 noon. So as far as that, we'll keep an eye on that. But 12 points per game, you're through 4 FBS games now. Again, you've played Michigan, which is undefeated. You've played Marshall, which is undefeated. App State has 2 losses, but they even gave up a ton of points to Louisiana Monroe this past weekend. They were able to win the game on a late kick. But Rice has struggled defensively, and you weren't able to score on them a whole lot. So I just don't know if this offense really is going to have answers at any point this season right now. I mean, outside of going back to Mason Garcia, how much is that going to really change things? Because the offensive line is still struggling right now. The receivers had 7 drop passes on Saturday. It's just a problem that really at every position outside of running back now. And I think that also goes to, the offensive staff needs to be better as well. But I think their hands are tied. So it's just the offense right now, I just don't really have an answer for. And I don't know if there is an answer in season right now, unfortunately, Philip.
Yeah, the one thing that I have seen that I'll really praise, especially when it comes to the passing game from where we were after the first 2 weeks, is the separation the wide receivers are getting, particularly the guys on the outside. And you look at the stats of Chase Sowell and Josiah Hatfield and how many targets they had, and legit targets they had during this game. The unfortunate thing, though, like you said, is a lot of times they're getting open, they're dropping the football. And look, drops are a part of the game, they're going to happen. But they're a part of the game 1 to 2 times a game, not 7 to 8 times a game. You can't have
7 drops.
Yeah, I mean, those are negative plays in a way. Yes, you may not physically lose yards, but when you have the ability to pick up yardage and then you go 0, you throw an incomplete pass, yes, incomplete passes are going to happen. Sometimes the defense is going to have great coverage and force your quarterback to flush and throw it away. That's not what happened on these plays, and that has got to be the next step for these receivers, and it should be the easiest step, right? This is the thing that should be the issue maybe week 1, and then it's done. Instead, the separation thing got fixed, which is a harder thing to fix because you've got to be physical. You've got to just be better than the guy across from you sometimes, and they are fixing the stuff that's hard to fix, and they're not fixing the stuff that's easy to fix.
It's all you can do is laugh sometimes because it's that painful. And look, I'm sure the coaching staff is 100 times more frustrated than we are. The receivers are not out there trying to drop the ball. After a while, it kind of becomes mental. I mean, Jalen Johnson had 3 drops during the game, according to Pro Football Focus, and he's a guy who should be your number 1 or 2 receiver. So it's just, I think after a while, that stuff gets in your own head. He's a better receiver than that, and he'll be the first to tell you that. And it's frustrating, man. But it was good to see Chase Sowell make some plays. And make a contested catch, by the way, on the 2-point conversion. We have not seen any of that this year, really, at least consistently. All right, let's get to some of your questions on Twitter. Steve, the Pirate, says we've had the same issues. Speaking to our points, we've had the same issues, he says, in all 4 games against FBS opponents. The offensive line has struggled to protect the quarterback. Wide receivers are dropping too many passes. Inexperienced quarterback mistakes, inconsistent running game, penalties. The defense gives up 1 or 2 home run plays a game. We are who we are. And, I mean, I can't disagree with any of that, to be honest. At this point, like you said, Philip, like a game or 2, you can say, well, maybe you can correct these mistakes. But once you start getting to the halfway point of the season, which ECU's almost at, once you start seeing this big of a sample size, there are certain areas you can still improve. But after a while, it kind of becomes – you are what your record are. You are what your record says you are, I should say. And the Pirates are 1-4. Are there winnable games yet left? Yes, but I can't disagree with anything he says there. It's just you're having those same mistakes pop up each week.
You are, and I mean, I guess the one positive here is playing devil's advocate, because I do agree, is some of the things that have gone well, I think have gone well each week. For example, you and I were talking about before the show, not a big day from Luke McCaffrey. They've done a really good job at shutting down the guy in which they've schemed for, and I think we'll get into that later, so I'll save some of those comments for later. So that's a big thing that I will take from a positive. But, yeah, it's just where's the growth with this team, right? Like I mentioned the separation by the wide receivers. That's one little thing, but the penalties were better this week, but still inconsistency moving the football. Thought the run blocking was a little better. Rushing game looked a little better. But the quarterback thing, I do think that's maybe improving a little bit. But, yeah, inexperienced quarterback play is going to be something you get when you have 2 inexperienced quarterbacks. I mean, very few guys come out and start out their college career just setting the world on fire. Not everyone has a Kellen Moore-type college career where he's winning from the first day and does it for 4 years. It's not realistic. So, yeah, I think it just comes down to just – I don't even know. It's got to the point where it's work on the problem is you got to work on everything. That's like the frustrating part. It's like, what do you focus on in practice? Because at least offensively, we kind of know what it is defensively, right? The home run plays, like we're shutting down them play in and play out. But you got to run block better. You definitely got to pass block better. I mean, these quarterbacks, they aren't experienced. They can't be throwing off their back foot. Receivers, I don't know. You got to run the tip drill. Maybe they need to go work out with the DBs and run the tip drill so they can catch the ball better. I just don't know at this point.
I mean, literally, it's everything. You got the quarterback, which I think Flynn, all things considered, Flynn is – I don't think Flynn's the problem. I mean, I don't think Garcia's the problem either, but they are making that one or two big mistake. You know, the Flynn pick, that's a back-breaking mistake you can't make in that situation. And, you know, I think he'll learn from it because he's playing for the first time, but you can't force that ball there. But then when you do get a open receiver, then somebody misses a block up front. Or, you know, there was a play, I think, in the fourth quarter where they hit Hatfield on some type of crossing route, and if Chase Sowell could have made the block on the perimeter, he may have scored a touchdown. He misses the block, he goes for no gain. There's plays in the run game where either the running back misses the cut or there's a missed block. The quarterback draw they called, if you go back and watch it on 3rd and 8, I'm not a huge fan of that call, but if it's blocked correctly, it's a first down. I mean, there's just so many things with the offense from an execution standpoint at each position. And, you know, too, the offensive staff can put these guys in better positions to make plays. So the offense, look, it's a mess right now. There's no other way to put it. When you're averaging 12 points a game, it's bad. I mean, at this point in the season, I think, you know, we all know that. The coaching staff knows it. They're working hard on fixing it, but you got to be able to score points. Brad says watching our offense is like watching a train wreck in slow motion for 4 quarters. And something I will say about the offense, you know, when you're on the field shooting pregame, I do think a lot of this goes back to confidence and belief. And, yeah, that's kind of a, you know, that cliche thing to say, but pregame taking photos, like when I watch the defensive players warm up, they're juiced up, they're intense, they're getting each other pumped up. Now, part of this is like playing defense. You got to have a different mindset. I understand that. But even the defensive coaches, you can kind of see like a certain mentality on that side of the ball. And you go watch the offense warm up, and I don't necessarily see that same mentality. And a lot of that goes back to inexperience, lack of success. Outside of Rajay Harris, I don't really see a big-time vocal leader on the offensive side of the ball right now. And I think when things go bad, they struggle to get out of that rut. And I think it's just a lack of confidence right now on that side of the football due to the performance and due to the inexperience and, you know, just, you know, what's going on with that offensive side of the football right now, whether it be, you know, they're wanting to be put in better positions as players or just not having confidence in what they're doing. I don't know, but something's clearly missing. And, you know, I want to see that killer instinct on the offensive side of the ball. I don't know who needs to do it, but I see it on defense. I see it from the D-line. I see it from the linebackers. I see it from the corners and safeties. Like, they go into a game knowing they're good enough to win. The offense right now, they don't look that same way. So until that changes, ECU is not going to have success on offense consistently. All right, let's get our first break in. We'll come back. We'll read more of your comments. We got a lot of people tuned in on YouTube, on Facebook, and we'll get to that on the other side. You're listening to Hoist the Colors on a Reaction Monday.
A huge selection of new Toyotas is ready to go at Greenville Toyota. Rush in for the one you want before it's gone. Camrys, just $269 a month. RAV4s, ready to go for just $289 a month. Now at Greenville Toyota.
Other restaurants claim their food is fresh and fast, but are they friendly? At Moore's, you're treated like family the minute you walk into their doors. With locations in Winterville, New Bern, Swansboro, Morehead City, and Jacksonville. We've been practicing what we preach since 1945. At Moore's, our barbecue is slow cooked and smoked over real wood daily until it's so tender it's falling off the bone. Combined with our fresh chicken, cooked-to-order seafood, and homemade fixins, we're sure you'll agree. If it's not Moore's, it's less.
Acre Station Meat Farm, along with Lane Angus Beef, bring you farm to fork beef.
Stock your freezers now with affordable beef boxes, just in time for the grilling season.
Farm to fork beef brings quality local beef to your family. From your traditional butcher shop, Acre Station Meat Farm. Come on down to Acre Station Meat Farm and find out why we're #1 in fresh cuts and friendly service.
Acre Station Meat Farm, Highway 32 North, Pinetown.
At GoEco, we don't just supply the office space. We create solutions for any environment. Our state-of-the-art commercial-grade video display is perfect for watching film with the team. From film study to the field, elevate your game with Go Eco.
Storm season is approaching. North Carolina weather can damage your roof, and before long, a small leak can turn into a big problem. Your home is one of your biggest investments, so protect it with Wells Home Improvements.
We work with all insurance companies for a hassle-free roof installation experience. Call us today and get 10% off your roof installation when you mention this commercial.
252-227-8403 or visit us online at wellshomeimprovements.com. Wells Home Improvements. Local, honest, dependable.
New Toyotas are ready to go at Greenville Toyota. Shop a huge selection with new inventory arriving daily. Don't see what you want? We'll find it or order it for you. Plus, fresh trades are rolling in and ready to go for delivery today. Rush to Greenville Toyota.
The Pirates play here. Arr! This is Hoist the Colors Radio with Stephen Igo.
Yes! That was so good!
On 94.3 The Game.
All right, welcome back into the show. This Reaction Monday, October 2nd. It is a bye week for ECU, but we're recapping a disappointing 24-17 loss to Rice in Houston. Really leaves a sour taste in the mouth going into the bye. Philip Pilkington back in the studio. He's producing. We got a lot of people tuned in on YouTube and Facebook. A lot of good comments, and we'll get to those here in a second. I wanted to run through a lot of these people that chimed in on X over the weekend, and so I'm going to run through these comments. Again, keep your suggestions rolling in the Facebook and YouTube chats. We'll get to those. Brooks on X, he says it's obvious we don't have the horses and or the coaches to play in this league, which is sad. Year 5, and this is where we're at. Who is allowing the Sneads, the CJ Johnsons, et cetera, to get a bad advice to leave for the NFL early when clearly they're not ready and never make a team? Yeah, I mean, those are just family members, people in their corner, and a lot of times if you have your degree, like in Tyler Snead's case, they're just ready to move on. In CJ's case, I guess he was ready to give the NFL a shot, and that seems to have not worked out to this point. I think he is still under contract with the XFL, but that hurts. And you also got some guys who moved on via the portal. Natalie, for example, says solution is to emphasize local Eastern North Carolina recruits who want to have always wanted to play at ECU, and 2, got to build a good O-line and retain those guys. With a good O-line, you can make the most average quarterback look good. I mean, that sounds good in theory, and I appreciate the comment, but all right, you bring in Nashad Strother from Havelock. You bring in Avery Jones as a transfer from Havelock. Those 2 players are offensive linemen from Eastern North Carolina. They have success. What do? They transfer out with 1 year of eligibility. Your offensive line would look a lot better if those guys stuck around. They go on. They get paid via NIL means through other universities at their new schools, Oregon and Auburn, respectively. So it sounds good in theory, but it's a lot easier said than done. I will continue to hit this home. I know nobody wants to hear this when you're 1-4, but you got to continue to invest in NIL. Everybody wants to know how Duke got so good overnight. Well, they have $5 million in NIL money to spend in football alone. Obviously, Mike Elko is doing a great job there, but they also have a lot of NIL money to help attract and retain talent. I mean, that is a large part of college football now. So ECU fans got to continue to invest in that long term. If you want to get a quarterback from the transfer portal, you're going to have to pay. I mean, that's just the reality right now. Probably a minimum of $100,000. So these things are the reality, and that is a big side of college football right now. So we'll get more into that discussion, I think, towards the latter half of the season. We're going to try to get somebody back on from Team Boneyard here in a little bit, just to kind of discuss the importance of continuing to grow that in a crucial time in Pirate football history. Pirate Treasure NC on Twitter says, I was willing to give the Michigan game a pass because of their level this season, but App State, Marshall, and Rice, I am not. Inexcusable poor offensive play from the quarterbacks, drop passes from the receivers, poor blocking, defense can't seem to not give big plays. Yeah, kind of the same story we discussed there in segment 1. Dennis with an interesting point. He says you can make a case this is the worst loss of the Mike Houston era. We needed this one in a bad way to gain momentum for conference play. I still like a lot of the talent on our team, but not having a true number one quarterback will be our downfall, which falls on coaching. And a lot of comments about how if they knew Mason and Alex maybe weren't going to be the guy, they should have gone out and got a portal quarterback. We talked about that as well in past shows. Hindsight's 2020, but it's definitely costing them now. And I really, Philip, after watching this offense for 5 games, and somebody asked earlier, JT Daniels, is there any truth to the rumor JT Daniels was considering ECU when he was in the transfer portal? I heard mixed things on that he looked at ECU, but I don't know if he was ever serious about coming here or not. He's a West Coast guy. I don't know if he wanted to come to ECU, but either way, I have not confirmed that he was actually considering coming to ECU. He may have reached out. But either way, my point is, with what I've seen out of this offense, you would have had to have gotten an elite quarterback and a quarterback who's mobile to run around with the pressures ECU's given up. Everybody wants to point to Alex Flynn. Well, he was pressured on 50% of his dropbacks and 7 drop passes. Think about how much that affects your numbers at the end of the day. I really don't think quarterback is the biggest problem. Yes, if you had an experienced quarterback, you could probably clean some things up right now just due to that. And if you had an elite-level quarterback, he could probably make some throws or some runs that would overcome these issues. But I still think the quarterback right now is not the biggest problem with this offense. I think offensive line, receiver, and just, offensive identity is really killing this team right now. Philip, how about you?
Yeah, I think so. And the numbers that you just brought up, kind of back that up. When you're under pressure half of the time, look, good quarterbacks can throw under pressure, no doubt. But 50% of the time is just an unrealistic number to be effective. And how many drops was it? You said this week 7, correct?
7 drops and 50% pressure. Like, no quarterback can succeed with that.
No, and when you look, he was 21 of 44 with 7 drops. So let's go with a realistic number. The receivers are human. We're not going to make them perfect. We're going to make them pretty good. We're going to give them 2 drops. So you get rid of 5 of those. He's now 26 of 44. That's a pretty good completion percentage, 26 of 44. Let's do that math real quick because can't do that in my head. That's 60%. So, or right at 59%. If you can do 60% completion percentage in college football, that is about the norm for a solid quarterback. And then, maybe you take one or two of those pressures away. Maybe those are some balls he threw away that he then completed. So maybe those are, a couple more completions there. So, are Alex Flynn and Mason Garcia the best options in the country? No. Are they the flashiest, most experienced options? No. But to your point, Steven, I think there's bigger problems. And if they were out there and they had all day and they were spiking stuff in the dirt, if they looked like how everybody thought Zach Wilson was going to look last night, obviously he didn't, and they're just throwing interceptions, that's one thing. But we saw like even a guy like Zach Wilson last night, when you give him time to throw the football and the receivers get separation, I thought he looked pretty darn good. Now, obviously, he's an NFL quarterback. That's different. But these guys, they're D1 quarterbacks for a reason. But you've got to give them the tools around them to succeed, and I just don't know if either one of these guys has it right now.
Yeah, I mean, if you could go out and sign a true 5-star mobile quarterback that's proven at the D1 level and he could run around and make some amazing plays, that would be great. But, there's only 10 of those guys in the country, and it's going to be very hard to get them at East Carolina. I think Mason Garcia has the higher ceiling, but I think he needs a good supporting cast right now to help him out, and I don't know if that's there right now. So, there's some comments, hey, Mason should see the field now. We kind of know what Alex Flynn is. I still think Flynn has room to improve. He's playing with an injured shoulder. That's not helping things. Maybe this bye week gets him feeling better. But, yeah, I mean, that's the coaches. That's what they get paid hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars to do. I do think Garcia has a higher ceiling, and if at some point this season goes off the rails completely and you're not able to reach bowl eligibility, you got to at least find out if you have the quarterback of the future on the roster. You got to figure out what offensive pieces can help you moving forward. Alex Flynn does have a year of eligibility left. He is intending to go to med school when he chooses to, so that could factor into the decision. But also Garcia has 2 years of eligibility left as well. People saying Raheem Jeter should play. Look, I've seen Raheem Jeter practice a lot. and he still has a long, long way to go. So I don't think Raheem Jeter is the answer right now. I think in time he could be a very good player. If you want to throw him out there towards the end of the season, that's fine. But if you throw him in there with this situation, offensive line and quarterback, I'm just telling y'all, it would be a very bad disaster. Considering, the fact he's a freshman quarterback, he's still learning the system. He's still cleaning up some mechanical things. So I just don't see that as the answer right now offensively. So I think it's Garcia or Flynn, and you kind of see what happens from there. You continue to try to make incremental improvements right now. All right, let's get back to some of your comments on social media. Justice says, realistically, we are going 1-11 or 2-10. Does Mike Houston lose his job in this scenario? If so, who we look to hire? Look, I don't think ECU realistically is going 1-11 or 2-10. I mean, they just outplayed Rice. They lost the game, but it's not like they went out there and got beat 50-10 against a bad Rice team. So, I mean, there's still possible wins left on the schedule. Charlotte, they'll be favored. Tulsa, they'll probably be favored. They could win at FAU. They could win at Navy. SMU is going to be favored, but, I mean, that's not an unwinnable game. So, to say they're going to go 1-11 or 2-10, I don't think realistic. Either way, Mike Houston is not – I don't see a scenario where he's going to not be back. I mean, he's signed through 2026. He's owed $1.4 million of base salary each of those years. That's $4.2 million. ECU does not have that money. So, and I don't think Mike Houston should be let go. I think there were some mistakes made in the evaluation process of whether it be the quarterback position or the offensive personnel. I think there's been recruiting misses on the offensive side of the ball. I think you're looking at that now. But you look at the defense, I think you got a lot of young guys playing at a high level right now. If you can retain that side of the football this offseason, and if you can fix the offense and get a quarterback, whether it's somebody in the program now or bring in somebody, and find some offensive pieces to build around, you can be a good football team quickly right now. So, I mean, I think the foundation is still there. This is not a terrible football team. The defense is already in a good spot, and you're playing with a lot of guys who have eligibility remaining. So the big key is going to be retaining guys. I mean, this is a conversation more for the offseason, but I'm just, if you're 1-4, you still got 7 games left. I know it's frustrating. I know people want to look at the schedule. This is what we do, Philip. Hey, I'm a Broncos fan. Denver wins one game. I'm like, well, maybe they can get back into this playoff race. But when they lose a game, you're like, oh, can we win another game on the schedule? The reality is they're somewhere in the middle there. You're not going to go 1-11, and just like Denver's probably not going to be back in the playoffs in the NFL.
That is true. And, hey, real quick, we do have Richard on the line, by the way, so we'll go to him before we get to my opinion on that.
Is this Richard Powell?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
What's up, man?
Much. Appreciate y'all having me on, but, yeah, I have a few questions. I agree with you. I do believe Mike Houston, he's definitely – 4-8 first year, 3-6, 7-5, 8-5. Brand, the transition piece right now is having some bumps in the road. But for me, so let's say for instance, I was just at the Colorado versus USC game this past weekend and seeing the difference of the hype and the pride compared to ECU. Just seems like a lot of people are down, and having to 4 or 5 teams leave to go to the Big 12. We're basically Conference USA 2.0 again. And this is a bad time for us to be losing these games. At what point can we say, let's just go ahead and get our younger guys all the experience to look forward to the next year? What do you think would be a transition time like that?
I think so. First off, to your first point, unfortunately, ECU has a bad habit as a football program of having some of their worst years at the most critical times in conference realignment. So that, that's frustrating. That's a whole different conversation. But as far as your second point, Richard, I think you're reaching that point now in the bye week where you start to discuss, hey, is our senior receiver who's, maybe not performing his capabilities, I'm just using this as an example, maybe it's time to give our freshman or sophomore a shot. It's one of those things where during a bye week you could see some personnel changes. The other side of it is, too, the coaches, we just had this conversation about how maybe ECU, what if they go 1-11, 2-10? They're looking at as how do we get this next win? And until bowl eligibility is out the door, they're going to look at it as we got to put our best players on the field to have us the capability to reach bowl eligibility. So for me, when the bowl game is not a reality in terms of they have more than 6 losses, I think that's when you could see real wholesale personnel changes, because at that point you truly are playing for the future. And in some ways you can play for the future and still try to win now. But I think that is a conversation for when you have more than 6 losses, if that occurs.
Right. And last thing for me, you're talking about C.J. Johnson, for instance, who left early. Keaton Mitchell would be another example. To me, it's like, did they have kind of an thing? They kind of figured this year might be a down year. That's why they're going to try to leave while they're on their top game. That's one thing to think about also, I think, for the players that left early this previous year.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair point. And, too, like a lot of those guys came in together or, especially like Holden, CJ, that whole class came in together. And, Keaton, I think Keaton's – look, it was time for him to go. I mean, he had played 3 years. He wasn't going to raise his stock a whole lot. So, but that could play a role either way. Offensive line-wise, you were losing 4 starters. I think he could still make some big runs out there, just given his talent level this year. But I think he made the right decision to go. CJ, I don't know if he did or not, but he had played 4 years and he was ready to move on. So it just kind of is what it is, unfortunately.
Right. All right. Well, hey, I appreciate y'all letting me on, and I'm always looking and appreciate everything y'all do. And that says Roll Pirates.
Appreciate it, Richard. Good to hear from you, man. Yeah, if you want to call in, 252-561-8255. Again, 252-561-8255. We got to get our second break in. We'll come back. We'll continue to roll through your comments, questions on this Reaction Monday.
Air Service is back at Pitt Greenville Airport, offering safe, clean facilities and flights from American Airlines. That means the short commute, quicker lines, and better prices that get you where you're going fast and easy. See it for yourself. There's great things inside at Pitt Greenville Airport. Air Service is back at Pitt Greenville Airport, offering safe, clean facilities and flights from American Airlines. That means the short commute, quicker lines, and better prices that get you where you're going fast and easy. See it for yourself. There's great things inside at Pitt Greenville Airport.
The best burgers around. Everyone loves a thick, juicy, and fresh burger. Tiebreakers in Greenville, plus the all-new Tiebreakers in Winterville. Do real burgers better than anybody. So don't just go to any burger-themed restaurant chain. It's time to break the chain and eat local. Tiebreakers, real burgers at its best.
Everybody loves burgers.
Living easy is the sound of children laughing as you make memories with neighbors and friends. It's the sound of nothing at all. It's the smell of the salt air. Hear the waters against the marsh grass. See the beauty of our coast. Bow Coast, located in Beaufort, North Carolina. Southern Living's best small town.
Just because voice-over IP telephones are the latest technology in the telephone world doesn't mean they're the right choice for you and your business. Whether your internet provider is unable to support a voice-over IP phone system, or you don't have a need for high-tech features and simply want to stick with a traditional system, Spain Telecom is here to help. Spain Telecom offers a variety of services to keep your business connected and competitive. We're confident we can find the right phone system for you and your business, a system that addresses all your communication needs. Looking for a new phone system that won't break the bank? In addition to new systems, Spain Telecom also offers gently used systems that are in great shape and can save you money. No matter your needs, Spain Telecom has a solution for you. Whether it's voice over IP, on-premise systems, new or used, give us a call at 252-353-2006 and let Spain Telecom help you with your communications needs.
Pizza? Ooh.
Yes. All pineapple.
No.
What's wrong with pineapple on pizza?
I only eat pizza with pizza things.
That makes sense. Pineapple is a pizza thing.
Also makes sense. Is it though?
This tastes great.
That we agree on.
Let's agree to agree. Pepsi Zero Sugar tastes great.
Can't you just pick off the pineapple?
aboard as we set sail and hoist the colors.
Aha, matey!
Back to the show with Steve and I Go on 94.3 The Game.
All right, welcome back to this Monday reaction show. And ECU coming off a 24-17 loss to Rice. They're 1-4 heading into the bye week. It'll be a shorter bye week because they host SMU, the SMU Mustangs, coming up next Thursday. If you want to call in, we got about 20 minutes left in the show, 252-561-8255. If you want to do that, I would suggest doing it now. Again, 252-561-8255. Philip Pilkington back producing. He will answer your call. All right, we got a question on Facebook as we're taking all your questions across all social media platforms. Got a whole lot. We'll try to get through these as fast as we can. Graham wants to know, how many passes did we throw over 20 yards Saturday? I'd be surprised if we've completed over 5 catches over 20 yards all season. So I looked at the numbers. According to Pro Football Focus, Alex Flynn attempted 7 passes beyond 20 yards. He completed 2 of those for 55 yards. I believe he hit Josiah Hatfield for 1 and maybe Chase Sewell for the other. But he hit some throws downfield. He has actually taken some shots downfield, but Mason Garcia, when he's been in the game, has not. So ECU did actually push the ball down the field a little bit against Rice. Again, a lot of attempts. That was a total of 54 dropbacks by Alex Flynn, and he threw 7 passes beyond 20 yards, completing 2. So there's your answer to that. Again, a few more comments here on social media. We'll jump back to Twitter, where we got several. Wrightsville Pirates said, I think the staff did a bad job of talent evaluation in the spring. I'm not sure how the coaching staff didn't see this coming with the O-line play, quarterback situation, and wide receivers. The fact they did not bring in a transfer quarterback and at least 1 wide receiver is nauseating. I mean, they did bring in 3 receivers, and right now, outside of Chase Sewell, the other guys have not been able to deliver early this season. Offensive line, they brought in multiple transfers. They maybe didn't hit on their top guys. A lot of this is NIL related. A lot of the top receivers they tried to get went to places with more money. So again, if you want to get impact guys in the transfer portal going forward, you got to have the money. That's just the reality of the situation, guys. You might can sneak and find a proven play or a playmaker down that's not proven, that turns out to be a good player, like Chase Sewell, barely played last year for Colorado. Young guy, but he's taking his lumps in terms of learning as well. So again, we had this conversation earlier, but you got to raise some money on the NIL front. The reason they got Isaiah Winstead the year before is because he had a connection to Latrell Scott. He had coached under him or played under him when Latrell Scott was a coach at Norfolk State, so you kind of had that connection helping you out. You're not going to be able to go out and get a 1,000-yard receiver each year in the portal, so with no money. That's just the reality of the situation. So David says, as a fan, I'm a bit disappointed on where we are today. I believe in the players and the coaches and the administrators. I do feel like we would take a step back on offense and in the wins and losses after the offseason. Nothing like this, though. Go Pirates. Yeah, I think most people realistically thought the Pirates were going to take a step back offensively, but to the point where you're averaging 12 points a game against FBS competition and really just looking like you don't have an identity on offense is the most disappointing thing. Back to YouTube, Pirate Mitch says we really need a rich donor to put up a few million to get some talent in here next year. If I had it, I'd do it. The next 2 years are critical. And Richard follows up, says Mr. Beast and Vince McMahon got to donate. Harold Varner already gave his portion. Yeah, my thing is ECU, they're never going to be the richest school on the NIL front, and you're never going to have the most talent, but you at least got to be at a point where you can be competitive. I referenced Duke earlier, what they're doing with $5 million in NIL, maybe for ECU. If you can get to $1 million in NIL each year, I think you can have a pretty good team and a team that can compete for AAC championships in this league. How realistic that is, I don't know. Again, that's a conversation we'll have with some representatives of Team Boneyard in the coming weeks. A few more comments here on X. Let's see. Richard says, I graduated 20-plus years ago. ECU was a good education, but let's be honest, it's not Ivy League. But what ECU taught me was to be scrappy, creative, work harder, and outsmart people. He says, I can't stand getting outsmarted We seem to be getting outsmarted each week on the field right now. Matt chimes in. He says 1-4 is a tough pill to swallow. There's blame to be shared everywhere, from quarterback play to drop passes to play calling. But it's become clear the offensive line is just not good. This program is in good enough shape to rebound next year. Need to hit the portal hard is what he says. And then we got several comments that are basically gifs of things that represent poor play, as Pirate fans are frustrated here. And, Joshua Betts with an interesting comment, and I think it's fair. He says, I think this season hinged on Mason Garcia being ready to step into Holton's cleats, continue the offense at a higher level, and that hasn't happened. Rightfully so, big playmakers left. He references Keaton Mitchell, Ryan Jones, Isaiah Winstead, so it wasn't an easy task. So, and let's face it, too, Mason Garcia had a lot of pressure on his shoulders. He was a highly recruited player and a lot of expectations. He was kind of set up to be the guy, and, in a good way. I think they tried to prepare him to be the guy, and sometimes it's just not a linear process, and we kind of saw the struggles there. But I've seen some people comment, Philip, as I'll bring in Philip Pilkington here for his thoughts here, that they're already writing off Mason Garcia, and I don't think that's fair. I don't think it's fair to write off either of these quarterbacks, and I don't know if at some point ECU will go back to Garcia getting his chance to be the number one guy, which it feels like Flynn was that way the past few weeks. But Mason, to me, he basically only got the Marshall game to play the entire contest, and there were ups and downs, and since then it's kind of been Flynn's show, which is fine, but I'm not writing off Mason Garcia yet, and I still think he'll have another chapter to write in his ECU career.
Yeah, I think he will, and I 100% agree with you. It may not be in the 2023 campaign, and it may be in the 2023 campaign, but, you mentioned earlier in the show all of the issues. I guess I should just be blunt with it and call them issues, because that's what they are with this offense. And when you are a quarterback who's never played at any given level, whether that's the varsity level, the collegiate level, the professional level, it's hard to adapt to the game when the offense has other issues. Now, we see it all the time with number one picks in the NFL, right? They don't look good right out of the gate. Look at Peyton Manning's first 16 games when he threw 30 interceptions, and because the rest of the offense wasn't good, but it took the time for the kids to, develop. The problem is nowadays in sports, and I was talking with our guy Dom earlier today, is everybody is in this we want to win now mindset. Fans, coaches, administration, and it puts more pressure on these kids when they are in these situations, and it hurts them sometimes from succeeding. So I think Mason was thrown into a tough situation, and Holton Ahlers is impossible to, be the guy who succeeds him, because he was like the prodigal son of Greenville, and he set all the records. I couldn't imagine being in the shoes of Alex Flynn or Mason Garcia, and neither one of them were probably 100% ready yet at the time, but hey, they got thrown to the wolves, and because of that, I think as long as Mason keeps his head on his shoulders and doesn't let those setbacks, those minor setbacks, define his career, then he will have another opportunity, and I believe someday he will succeed. Now, if he goes in there and lets what happened in the past define his whole career, he could very easily not have a future in a Pirate uniform or any uniform. But I think he'll be a mature, smart kid about this. I think he's got great coaches around him. Coach Houston has seen situations like this before, and they will talk to him, and wish him all the best, and hopefully it's in a Pirate uniform at some point.
Graham on Facebook says Holton threw under pressure his entire 5-year career is an ECU thing, and plenty of drops too. And he's basically making the point, Flynn and Garcia should be better. I remember when Holton was pressured and didn't have the help around him that people wanted to bench Holton Ahlers because they thought he was a terrible quarterback. It wasn't until 2021, 2022 when the offensive line figured out how to consistently block people, and they got some playmakers around him, that Holton Ahlers looked like the guy we are going to remember because of the way he finished his career. So there's a lot more to it, and that's kind of how I feel about that. All right, let's get our final break in. We'll come back. We'll have closing thoughts and wrap up the show. This is a Reaction Monday on Hoist the Colors.
Fifth Street Hardware is the home of the $9 lunch special Tuesday through Fridays. $9 specials every day, including the famous Burger Day on Tuesdays.
Flatbread Pizza Wednesday, the famous 5th Street Hardware Reuben on Thursday, and fried fish or shrimp on Friday. Plus trivia on Wednesday nights and live music every Thursday nights. And the Prime Rib Brunch Buffet has returned on Sundays. You heard that right. The Brunch Buffet with all the great items, including prime rib, 5th Street Hardware in downtown Greenville.
Tax credits are back. Get a 30% tax credit, up to $2,000 off your new Mitsubishi electric heat pump install. Let Comfort Master help you take advantage of the tax credits with a qualifying Mitsubishi electric ducted heat pump or non-ducted Mitsubishi electric mini splits. Mitsubishi electric mini splits are ideal for bonus rooms, garages, or sunrooms. If you need a new HVAC unit, call Comfort Master today.
Call Comfort Master. Call Comfort Master.
You can't name a lot of things that I didn't do. Stacking paper like a book, not a Kindle. You outdated, I'm the one they getting into, and I won't break a sweat. Let's get it, 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 let's get it. Child, please, I don't need a dog, please.
Are you game day ready? Anson Belt, the official belt of ECU Athletics.
Are you ready for a digital hair color revolution? The Color Master Factory by Chi and LG. A masterpiece of innovation, unlimited color formulations, limitless possibilities. Long-lasting color. Chi.
This is about you, your family, and the health of all who live in Eastern North Carolina. This is about the transformation of a health system into something more powerful and more human, about creating new ways to treat disease and keep you well. This is about ECU Health, which is to say, it's really all about you. ECU Health. Minds, hearts, purpose.
With Stephen Igo on 94.3 The Game.
Hoist the Johnny Roger!
Now, back to Hoist the Colors.
Okay, welcome back into this Reaction Monday. It is October 2nd. We're talking about East Carolina's 24-17 loss to Rice, and wanted to get a few more comments in before we get out of today's show. Jay on Facebook says the strength of our offense is the experience at running back, yet we seem to be centered around Harris and Bond. He says Marlon Gunn and Camaro Edmonds have talent also. Gunn showed he was good in space last year, made people miss. Why not adjust the offense around Garcia running and those guys running in swing passes with a lot of misdirection? Well, I mean, it's just hard to get more than one back on the field at the same time. You could have some two-back sets, but a lot of offenses just aren't designed that way. And we've seen some two-back stuff this year. The other factor of this also is Marlon Gunn just tweaked his hamstring, so he's not 100% right now, has not been for the past 2 games. That's why you haven't seen him. You know, Rajay is doing a really good job of being the number one back. I think he's a lot better than people give him credit for. Yes, he's not the home run hitter, but neither is Marlon Gunn. And, you know, neither is Camaro. Javius is that guy, but then there are times he's missed some cuts and he's got negative yardage too as a young back. So, I would like to see more snaps for Bond, though, and I would like to see more snaps for Edmonds as well. You know, Rajay got the vast majority of the snaps this past weekend. I do like Rajay a lot. I just do wish they would rotate a little bit more back at times. But it's tough when you can only get one of those guys in for the most part at the game, in the game at the same time. So it's just one of those deals where you got a lot of talent in that room, and maybe you could use Javius Bond more in the slot. We talked about some drops at receiver. Maybe an answer to that is using Bond in the slot more. Maybe that's something you can work on during the bye and find a way to potentially get him the ball more there, and also get Edmonds and Rajay and Gunn more snaps when Gunn is back healthy. So they have a glut of talent at running back, and they, in my opinion, lack talent at other spots. So maybe that's a way they can figure out how to get more talent on the field altogether at the same time. Well, Philip, we got a lot of comments that we're not going to be able to get to. We could have like a 3-hour show on Mondays, and the good thing is people care, man. And I know that some people said apathy's starting to set in with the 1-4 start, but when I go to places like Rice, it reminds me how lucky we have it to cover a team where fans care. And I know it's tough right now, but hang in there, Pirate fans, and it'll turn eventually, right, Philip?
Oh, it definitely will. And, like you said, it does speak a lot to this fan base and just the magnitude of their appreciation for the team, their love for the team, because they could easily just be so bad that when we lose, they don't even care to comment. Or don't care enough to comment. So at least we have that.
Like Panther fans now.
Yeah, they don't care. Those were the ones of us who liked them before Cam came still care, but the ones who jumped on the Camther fans, as Ben used to call them, they don't care anymore.
All right, he's Philip Pilkington. I'm Stephen Igo. Thanks to you guys for all the questions, the comments. We'll be back tomorrow at 12 noon with Joseph Sampson. We'll continue to break down the loss in the bye week. We got the coaches show tonight, Mike Houston and Tiebreakers, live at 6 o'clock. Tune into that, 94.3 The Game. We'll talk to you tomorrow at 12 noon.
This has been Hoist the Colors with your host, Stephen Igo. Tune in weekdays at noon for all things ECU sports. Get a recap of the show at 943thegame.com, on Twitter, Facebook, or anywhere you get your podcasts. We're back tomorrow with more of Hoist the Colors on 94.3 The Game.
R&D Brewing is proud to partner with the ECU Pirates, and now you can enjoy Pirates Brew, the official craft beer of ECU Athletics. Pirates Brew is a carefully curated light beer that embodies the spirit of ECU, a refreshing and easy drinking light beer. Pirates Brew by R&D Brewing is available now at grocery stores, local retailers, and at ECU athletic events.
Head over to your favorite store and enjoy a nice Pirates Brew today, or else you'll walk the plank. Hand me another Pirates Brew.
Fifth Street Hardware is the home of the $9 lunch special Tuesday through Fridays. $9 specials every day, including the famous Burger Day on Tuesdays, Flatbread Pizza Wednesday, the famous Fifth Street Hardware Reuben on Thursday, and fried fish or shrimp on Friday. Plus trivia on Wednesday nights and live music every Thursday nights. And the Prime Rib Brunch Buffet has returned on Sundays. You heard that right. The Brunch Buffet with all the great items, including prime rib. Fifth Street Hardware in downtown Greenville.
Living easy is the sound of children laughing as you make memories with neighbors and friends. It's the sound of nothing at all. It's the smell of the salt air. Hear the waters against the marsh grass. See the beauty of our coast. Bow Coast, located in Beaufort, North Carolina. Southern Living's best small town.
Just because voice over IP telephones are the latest technology in the telephone world doesn't mean they're the right choice for you and your business. Whether your internet provider is unable to support a voice over IP phone system, or you don't have a need for high-tech features and simply want to stick with a traditional system, Spain Telecom is here to help. Spain Telecom offers a variety of services to keep your business connected and competitive. We're confident we can find the right phone system for you and your business, a system that addresses all your communication needs. Looking for a new phone system that won't break the bank? In addition to new systems, Spain Telecom also offers gently used systems that are in great shape and can save you money. No matter your needs, Spain Telecom has a solution for you. Whether it's voice over IP, on-premise systems, new or used, give us a call at 252-353-2006 and let Spain Telecom help you with your communications needs.
Hey Pirate Nation, I'm head men's basketball coach Mike Schwartz.
And I'm Kim McNeil, head coach of your defending American Athletic Conference champion women's basketball team.
Basketball season is just around the corner, and we're looking forward to another exciting season on the hardwood.
We need Pirate Nation to Pat Minji's Coliseum by purchasing your season tickets today.
Call 1-800-DIAL-ECU or visit ECUPirates.com to get yours now.
Thanks, and go Pirates.